I just want to make the biscuits and eat them.
Do it for the biscuits. Take 4. Hi, I'm Ali.
And I'm Becki.
We're registered dietitians that use functional approaches to optimal health, and we believe strongly in the power of food as medicine.
In today's video, we'll be talking to you about ketosis as a normal metabolic state that can have some really great health supporting benefits, and making one of our favorite keto recipes, Keto Cheddar Onion Biscuits. Yum!
Can't wait. So the human body is designed to be a hybrid with 2 energy substrates, glucose or blood sugar, as well as access to ketones or fat-fueled compounds that are going to be made in times of food insecurity, like a fasted state, or low carbohydrate intake. And so from the hunter and gatherer ancestral approach to survival, we required nutritional ketones when food was not secure or when we weren't able to have access commonly to food sources. Now, I would argue that in today's overfed, malnourished population, we've lost the power to tap into this energy source because of an abuse and over intake of refined carbohydrates. This is why we see a lot of metabolic disease. We see higher influx of diabetes, cancer, hypertension, and heart disease, all based on excessive carbohydrate intake and unhealthy insulin response.
And what's really cool is that even looking from our starting point of life, in utero, babies are actually using ketones to fuel their brains. And we see breastfed babies are predominantly in ketosis. So this isn't some newfangled craze. This is actually a metabolic state that your body has from inception.
Yes, again, it's the abuse of excessive carbohydrates that doesn't allow us to make ketones from elevated glucose levels, so the body doesn't have to then produce. Now, when we're looking at the benefits of ketones, we can see enhanced body composition change because ketones use your reserves, your body fat, as fuel. So we can actually see muscle sparing effect, which maintains active metabolism while liberating or shedding body fat. We can see cognitive improvement and mood stability. Ketones actually cross the blood-brain barrier. They reduce oxidative stress and inflammation in the brain, and they can support GABA, an inhibitory mellow-out compound which can manage your mood. I speak to this in detail in my book, The Anti-Anxiety Diet.
Let's talk a little bit about what a real food keto approach looks like and maybe replacing some of the crappy high carb ingredients out there that would normally be in biscuits.
Yes. So in order to achieve a state of nutritional ketosis, you do have to adjust your macronutrient levers. So in our approach to nutritional ketosis, we don't chase and force feed fat. We focus on reducing carbohydrates, ensuring optimal intake of protein to maintain our muscle mass, and also ensure that we're getting clean sources like pasture-raised, grass-fed, wild-caught sources of protein. And then we use whole food quality fats, but we adjust the amount of fats not by your classic keto pie chart of being 70+% fat. We take into account the individual's amount of body fat to ensure how much fat they have to feed with. But most definitely when looking at like this biscuit recipe, you'll see that this recipe is higher in fat, higher in protein, and significantly lower in carbs than any biscuit recipe would be.
Absolutely. And if we're comparing to a popular cheddar biscuit recipe, I won't name any names of brands, but we see ingredients like enriched and bleached flour, which can be really problematic on our microbiome and cause some sterilization. We can also see that enriched flour having subpar forms of B vitamins added to it, like folic acid, which a lot of people don't metabolize well.
Yes. Folic acid in an individual that is MTHFR or has issues with methylation can actually cause more distress. So we always advise in our clinic to avoid synthetically enriched foods, and all flour, whether it's bleached or unbleached, is all going to be enriched with this synthetic folic acid. So this means crackers, cookies, cereals, all the foods that start with processed refined carbs would not have an optimal place in the human body because of that synthetic re-enrichment and the fact that those grains can cause havoc to our gut lining, driving inflammation. So instead of flour, we use almond flour in this recipe. 2 cups of almond flour is going to be the base.
And then oftentimes the second ingredient we're going to find in some form of a processed product, like this biscuit mix, is going to be an industrialized fat. So something like corn oil or soybean oil or palm oil that has been highly modified and processed and is likely going to be very susceptible to oxidation.
Yes, not ideal. Whereas in our keto cheddar onion biscuits, we're going to use grass-fed butter and we're going to use full-fat coconut milk, much more nourishing whole foods as alternatives. So let's get rocking with our dry ingredients here. So we're starting with the 2 cups of the almond flour. I'm gonna add in here, we've already pre-measured, we have a tablespoon of coconut flour here, we have cracked black pepper, baking powder, and some sea salt that I'm gonna mix in here and stir in with the wooden spoon. Do you wanna tell them about the cheese selection and why we're grating versus using something that's in a package?
Yes, absolutely. So actually the cheese that we're using today comes from this Kerrygold raw aged cheddar. You can pick this up actually at Costco, which we've already grated. And then I'm gonna hop on grating some Gruyere to give us a little bit of variation in flavor. And when we're picking up a processed or a packaged grated cheese, usually we're going to see anti-caking agents in there like silicon dioxide and things like that, as well as potentially antimicrobial agents to prevent molding, but those can be problematic on our gut bacteria.
So as Becky's grating that cheese, I'm going to be whisking an egg here. Both the cheese and the egg are going to be providing a nice amount of protein in these biscuits. And when you look at a commercial product or a processed product that has a cheese-like substance, it's often going to have artificial flavors. So beyond those binders and those anti-caking agents and the microbial impact, the whole real food is going to be far superior, providing us that nice protein. And then the sourcing, like Becki said, being grass-fed will give us those CLAs, which further enhance metabolic health and reduce insulin resistance. So I'm whisking my egg yolk here. My full egg, whole egg whisked. I'm now going to add in my coconut milk. This is a 1/3 cup of canned full-fat coconut milk. I use the Native Forest brand so that it is free of guar gum. Again, we want to remove stabilizers and additives as much as possible. So the full-fat canned coconut milk just has the ingredients of coconut and water. And then I'm also going to whisk into my egg and coconut milk melted grass-fed butter. This is a 1/3 cup of melted grass-fed butter as well. So now we have our liquid ingredients. And what are you chopping over there, Becki?
Got some fresh chives, which we'll use both in the mix and as a little bit of a topper for garnish. So we're using caramelized onions as well as chives to add some flavor and then also add some sulfur containing detox supporting compounds to our recipe.
Most definitely. So we're further enhancing your body's detoxification, but also removing the toxins that would be found in the processed products. So we're kind of getting that 2-for-1 there, and that's that food is medicine, removing and replacing with quality forms and then getting an abundance of health supporting compounds. So the caramelized onions were demoed in video 1 when we made our frittata. You can go and check that out. These are going to be simmered slowly over low heat so you get that nice rich flavor profile. I'm gonna add our caramelized onions to our liquid here, and then we'll add in our chives and we'll do that. And we'll mix in our wet ingredients into our dried, and then we will stir in the cheese. So we'll stir this in here. Get that stirred in. And you can start sprinkling in some of that cheese.
Let's do it.
Bring on the cheddar.
So by folding it in like this, you're getting that nice even distribution. So every bite has that cheesy goodness in it. Oh yeah.
A little bit more. Perfect. Now you do want the batter to be somewhat dry, like a biscuit. You don't want it to be wet. So make sure that you get this nice, thick, dense texture. I use a scooper in my house. I'll show you that in a moment. But you could easily just use a metal tablespoon and just put heaping tablespoon. trays worth. We've had the oven preheated at 350, and we're going to put them in for about 18 to 20 minutes.
It looks so good already. I can't wait. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's recipe and feel empowered to use nutritional ketosis to your advantage and make these delicious biscuits in your own home. If you like what we're serving up here over on YouTube, you can subscribe down below to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all the content that we're releasing. And there's also a link down below to subscribe to our newsletter where you can stay up to date on food as medicine updates, new recipes, and when you sign up, you'll get a free 2-week meal plan to get a taste of food as medicine.
If you want to dig deeper into our approach of food as medicine and nutritional ketosis, make sure you check out our podcast, Naturally Nourished. We'll put a link below as well. We have over 200 episodes, and many of them cover the topic of women's hormones and keto, or metabolic flexibility, carb cycling, and so much more.
And what's more is ketosis isn't this crazy newfangled thing. It's something, like Ali said, has been around since our, inception of
That's okay, you can say what's crazy.
inception of humans. I'm like, since we became babies.
When looking at our
Right.
starting point of life, we
Right.
require,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.